Education, education, this is the foundation. Our rising population needs sound education to be recognized anywhere you go. Have your certificate to show, to enjoy any kind of happiness. Knowledge is the key to success. Children go to school and learn well. Otherwise, later on in life, you won't catch real hell. Without an education in your head, your whole life will be pure misery. You're better off dead. For there is simply no
Welcome
room
back, everybody.
in this whole wide
Sparrow,
world.
a special good morning to you, and thank you very much for the music. You see that catch hell concept? I'm allergic to that, you know. But Sparrow, a very special good morning to you again. So here's what we are going to be speaking about: education. Of course, over the years, we have spoken about education ad nauseum, some of the successes in education, some of the challenges still affecting education. We have spoken about schools in Trinidad and Tobago, the upkeep of schools, and, you know, every year and at the beginning of every term, we do speak to officials of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association just to get an update as to the state of affairs when it comes to the delivery of schools, or how do I say, the upkeep of schools during the vacation period, so that students can return to them in a seamless way. All right. So we do have on the line this morning the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association, Mr. Martin Lumpkin. Mr. Lumpkin, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. It's always good to speak with you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Hopkinson. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. It's always an honor and a privilege to be on your program.
Yes.
Thank you for having us this morning.
Of course, Mr. Lumpkin. Well, Mr. Lumpkin, I want to begin this way because I don't know if you would have seen the Express newspaper this morning, but the Education Minister, Dr. Michael Dowlav, says a review is now underway to determine the status of all schools which began under the previous People's Partnership government and had never been completed. I want to ask that question, or speak about the minister's statement in the context of all schools in Trinidad and Tobago and the readiness of schools, because, you know, every year, at the beginning of every term, there are always problems. So I want to ask you to comment on what the minister would have said in the context of, as I said, the readiness of all schools in Trinidad and Tobago.
So let me begin by saying that I have not seen the statement,
Yes.
heard the statement, or seen the article from the Newsday. From what you have just spoken about, sorry, TTUTA is pleased that the Honorable Minister is looking at schools that have not been completed. And we want to extend that, because there are some schools that would have been started previous to the coalition in 2010. We had a number of the former junior secondary schools, Mount Hope Secondary, St. Joseph Secondary, Karipichaima, East Secondary, etc. There are a number that are on record that have been started and not completed. And it's quite interesting that you would, at the beginning of the program, speaking about changes in government and unfinished projects, etc. Within education, there are a number of them. And we are hopeful that the government will look at all of these schools, because there are schools even after the partnership government that have been decanted. Presal Government Primary School is one. I guess that one is also under the partnership. But you have others. Granville RC Primary has been decanted since 2016. So we are hopeful that when the Honorable Minister gets that assessment, that there's some solution going forward, and that.
All right. Yeah.
And that the government will finish those schools.
Yeah. And you see, Mr. Lumpkin, I don't want to leave this question as yet, because I think that over the years we have had so many discussions as it relates to education. We have spoken, and your colleague in Tobago, Mr. Braden
Yes.
Roberts, we have spoken about pigeon infestation, rat infestation. We have spoken about electrical problems at schools. We have spoken about dilapidated schools. So if what the minister is saying here, well, here's what schools would have been started under the last time they were in government, and the last administration did not continue with the projects. So I'm just saying, what was the information that the education ministry would have relayed to TTUTA and such organizations these projects not continuing? Was it a topic at all? Was it a topic of discussion in light of how many schools had serious problems and in some cases were putting the lives of students at risk? Was there any discussion at all as to why these schools were not completed?
At every opportunity that TTUTA gets, and albeit at the meetings with the permanent secretary, we would have within the minutes, and we keep raising these questions. The response has been, one, we are looking into it, or two, the finances at this time doesn't allow for. And I want to place on record that even though the minister, the honorable minister and the ministry is looking at the unfinished projects, as you would have said, there are a number of schools that are continuing on a very thin line as it relates to infrastructure, health and safety. And so we're hoping that those schools will also be addressed. The honorable minister spoke about 268 schools that have cabinet for the vacation repair program. We look forward to working with the ministry. We would like to see the schools so that our members can be prepared for those repairs during the vacation, because sometimes the principals have to be there to supervise, albeit for the primary schools, that's their vacation. Secondary schools are usually the principals and administration are at the plant, but in primary schools, some of them, all of our principals are on vacation, and if they need to be at the site during the repairs, that is their prerogative to do so. However, coming back to the point, we look forward to repair program throughout Trinidad and Tobago, because we would have highlighted a number of schools requiring
All right, Mr. Lumpkin, I think that we have lost him there. Is he back? Mr. Lumpkin, you're back?
I am back. Are you hearing me?
Well, we're hearing you now. I don't know how the connection is going to keep up, but go ahead, Mr. Lumpkin. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. So we always call for preventative maintenance, and to have maintenance on a regular basis, which would avoid some of the issues that we face. We have aging schools. The ministry would have admitted recently there are over 30% of the secondary schools that have outlived its age, and over 50% of primary schools. With that in mind, the Ministry of Education should be planning in having these schools either rebuilt, or if it is beyond its age, it should in how we're going to face these rebuilding in. But while that is taking place, to have as much preventative maintenance as possible. And to the other schools as well that are not on the list, they need to be addressed as well.
You know, Mr. Lumpkin, I think that it has become culture, and I think that there is a level of acceptance in Trinidad and Tobago by teachers, by principals, And I'm not criticizing them at all because they just have to work with the resources that they do have. But you know, every year around the carnival season, Mr. Lumpkin, we do speak to teachers and principals because they usually have events and they are fundraising events. And on every occasion, they say to us, well, here's what. We have certain programs that we need to embark upon in the school. There are things that we need to do on the school curriculum. There are certain upgrades that we need to do at schools. And I just find, Mr. Lumpkin, that this has become acceptable. That here's what. Schools just do not have the funding. So here's what. Teachers and parents and principals, they have to go out there and find the money. To me, the money, I think, should be, and I'm not criticizing what schools are doing. They are doing what they have to do. But to me, Mr. Lumpkin, I don't know where the government or governments are going to find the money from, but I just find it uncomfortable that schools always have to be with their cap in hand, begging all across the place for help. How do you feel about that?
Mr. Hopkinson, TTUTA record, not only with the Ministry of Education, not only with our membership, but in the public domain, stating that the job of an educator, whether it be administrator or teacher, is not to raise funds. The job of the educator is to educate our students. It is to drive national development. And if we really want our educators to focus on their job, they should not be distracted by fundraising. And if we see that importance, then the funding should be readily available. Yes. And yes, give equity amongst the schools, primary, secondary, and ECCE as well. And even, I have to say, our school supervisors, our curriculum officers at district offices as well too, they are languishing in terms of the funds that they have to carry out their duties. So funding throughout the education system. But our educators in the past and present and in the future cannot sit by and allow their students to not have the resources. And I think over the years, our administration from the top, within the Ministry of Education, governments as well too, no matter the political party, have, in our estimation, taken advantage of our educators. And let me say this, they come down on our educators when they supposedly feel they're not performing and they are not educating. But if they are distracted by a number of issues, infrastructural issues, health and safety issues, raising funds, as you said, then it affects their classroom performance and teaching when they have to do this. And we are very hopeful because we have an honorable minister who came through the education system, was a tutor member as well too, staff rep. We are hopeful that we can sit down and dialogue and have solutions, even though it's maybe short to medium term, have solutions for a number of the issues facing the education system, our members, and by extension, Trinidad and Tobago, our beloved country.
Yeah. Mr. Lumpkin, what are some of the other priority issues you'd like to see this administration address? You'd like to see the education ministry address? Of course, I would have said at the beginning, we have had long conversations about some of the challenges facing education in Trinidad and Tobago.
So apart from the infrastructural health and safety issues, which we continue to place within the Ministry of Education and the public domain, allow me to advocate for our educators in Tobago. They are facing the issue of contract teaching. A number of persons, when we visited schools, said that they have been on contract for 18 years. And administration after administration acknowledge that this is not the best arrangement. But we seem to be getting a runaround from both in the division and in the Ministry of Education, because the Ministry of Education also has a part to play when it comes to these regularization of the positions. So they have been having these persons educating our children in Tobago over these number of years, but not having them placed on the establishment. So there is a temporary position, but not the acknowledgement that they need this permanent position. If it is that you've been renewing these contracts over the years, you have admitted that you need these educators, these positions, these subjects in the schools. And so we have been advocating, but we really need to push a little harder now in Tobago. Tobago has its issue of extended sick leave, which is classified in Trinidad. We got agreement from the Ministry of Education, the Permanent Secretary, and the CPO to have that devolved to the Chief Administrator. We're not seeing it moved as far as possible, because when it goes down to Trinidad, it takes quite a while. Sometimes we have alleged loss of files, etc., etc. Ideally, and this is the only leave that is not classified into our members are not being upgraded in a timely manner. We have one that is really vexing, and we have been trying to get resolved. Those students who were sent to do the Bachelor's of Education at the University of Trinidad and Tobago, some of them over 10 years waiting for upgrade. It's a back and forth, goalposts being shifted. They've been told that they need to do these courses. When they do it, they need to do more courses, etc., etc. We have had enough. And I want to say to our UTT graduates, those who have been affected, USC as well too, we have sought legal advice when it comes to this. And we are hopeful as well that we can also have, we don't have to reach that point, but that we can have dialogue with the Honorable Minister of Education to have this solution. Years ago, the Chief Education Officer had agreed with TTUTA in a way forward, and that changed. Let us get to that. Those persons they're being denied a number of their benefits that they should have as well. ECCE teachers as well too. We are hopeful that the legislation will be changed to include them in the Education Act. We have a number of issues of increments being paid on time. And again, we're saying upgrades. And our concern is the number of vacancies in schools, especially new teachers to come into the system. Yes, there are challenges within the Teaching Service Commission. Yes, there was a judgment in terms of the board, the denominational boards and the Teaching Service Commission. We hope that the resolve can be there so that the vacancies can be filled. I know the Teaching Service Commission has issues of lack of resources, but we are saying to them they need to get around it to fill these vacancies. And there's one that we are addressing right now with the Ministry of Education. It has to do with acting, and a number of persons have been acting without being paid their acting allowance, without the recognition of the letter from Teaching Service Commission, which appoints them to that acting position. We need to get those, because I know of persons who've been acting over 5 years without that letter from Teaching Service Commission, without being paid. And so Ministry of Education has to get its acting order, which they are trying to do, but there are some questions that we have to ask them in terms of that. And Teaching Service Commission has to get their acting order in order to get these acting positions at least temporarily recognized and then filled as far as possible. There are many other issues, violence and indiscipline, that we are concerned about as well, and we will work with the Ministry of Education and any other bodies that are required to assist us, because it's not only in the schools, it's society at large. And I am hopeful that this government will recognize that there needs to be work in the community, in family as well too, and that will assist in bringing down in the first instance. Because we could talk about national security and homeland security, etc., but we have to tackle the problem from its root, where it's starting, and that's in the community and in the family.
Mr. Lumpkin, so many things have happened over the past few months, but I know that over the months, TTUTA has been involved in protests, and I believe it was the health insurance issue. Has that matter been settled at all?
It has not. Actually, it has grown worse than what we would have said in the public. We are hopeful as well, too, that with the new regime, that they will be looking at getting a resolve. Now, one of the solutions, the chief personnel officer, the body that is charged with managing with the associations, has said that they have sent out for the renewal of the contract or the new contract for the period, and that will also assist in. But in the meantime, our members have been paid, the dues have been coming out religiously, and they have not been getting back religiously their returns. It's a point of 2 years. They have reached that backlog of 2 years. And if it is that we are supposed to have this plan running effectively, efficiently, then there must be a way to get rid of all that backlog, and then going forward, do whatever needs to be done to bring it to a manageable position. In the past, there would have been an injection of funds into the program so that you bring it up to currency and then you deal with whatever issues you have. We were hopeful that from very early that would have been done. The CPO did say that in good conscience he could not have, well, they did an audit. So we are looking at getting a copy of the audit. We have done the Freedom of Information Act. We are working with our counterparts in the Public Service Association, who is part of the management committee. And we are making representation to see what this new administration will do. We have to give them the opportunity to address it. Should there be fail in both instances, then we have consulted with our attorney and we will pursue whatever legal options are afforded to us.
Yeah. Mr. Lumpkin, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Mr. Lumpkin, allow me to say you have been a great ambassador for TTUTA, and we thank you for being so available to us. I know that elections are upon you all, Mr. Lumpkin. Yes. You have thrown your hat back in the ring.
Yes, Mr. Hopkinson, let me say thank you for the compliment. We have, as with my predecessors, we have always tried to be as accessible to the media, because we need the media in highlighting and advocating on our issues as well too. And it's not only in terms of what is plaguing, but our successes as well too. Yes. So we've had the recently Teacher of the Year award, and I say congratulations to Ms. Avenel Louis Etienne from Vance River RC, and I'm hoping that we can have on your program soon to highlight our Teacher of the Year, because we believe and we always highlight the good that takes place and the good of our teachers. Yeah. The simple answer to your question, yes, I am seeking a re-election this year.
Yeah. Mr. Lumpkin.
Along with colleagues as well.
All right, Mr. Lumpkin, we wish you all the best in your future endeavors, sir. Bye for now, until we speak again.
Thank you very much for having me. All the best.
All right, we are going to a very short break, everybody. We're coming back.
Children go to school and learn well. Otherwise, later on in life, you're going to catch real hell.